Welcome to IAS project. In this video, we will be talking about features of Chalcolithic cultures. Particularly, we will be discussing house building, social hierarchy, and burial practices that were done by Chalcolithic culture people. If we talk about house building in Chalcolithic age, then the people of Chalcolithic cultures were generally not acquainted with burnt brick. However, we find certain exceptions for this also, because we have found evidence of burnt brick from Gilund, which is in Rajasthan. And these burnt bricks in Gilund were used almost around 1500 BCE. In our last video, we have learned that Gilund belongs to Aharbanas Chalcolithic culture. And Aharbanas Chalcolithic culture is located close to Gujarat. And we already know that in Gujarat, we have important Harappan sites. And in Harappan Bronze Age sites, burnt brick was used very widely. So probably the Chalcolithic age people of Gilund learnt about the usage of burnt brick from Harappan sites of Gujarat. Other than this example, most of the Chalcolithic sites are generally not acquainted with burnt brick. So how were they building their houses then? These people were mainly living in thatched houses that were made of wattle and daub. Let's look at an example of wattle and daub house that has a thatched roof. So in this picture, you can see wattle and daub house which has a thatched roof. So this roof is basically a thatched roof. Thatched roof means the roof is made using straw. For example, from paddy plants. Or sometimes other grasses are also used to make this kind of roof. Now what is wattle? This is basically wattle. So in wattle, generally some sticks are taken. Sometimes bamboos can also be used. So using these bamboos and sticks, what they do is they generally make a frame. And that frame is called as wattle frame. And on this wattle frame, they start to coat this wattle frame using mud. So after coating the wattle frame with mud, it generally becomes like a wall. You can see the wattle and daub wall over here. Okay. On the outside, it generally has mud, but on the inside, it has a frame which is made up of sticks, bamboo or wood. So this is basically wattle and daub house with a thatched roof. So this kind of house was being used by Chalcolithic age people in India. Occasionally, these people also built mud brick houses with a thatched roof. So mud brick houses were very rare. However, these type of houses were also built by Chalcolithic age people. But most of the times, these people were building wattle and daub houses that have thatched roofs. In some examples like Ahar in Rajasthan and Kot Ridiji in Pakistan, we have also found evidences of stone houses. So we can say that these three type of houses were built by Chalcolithic age people. In case of Maharashtra, particularly in Inamgaon and Daimabad, we have also found evidence of fortifications. Fortification is basically a wall that is surrounding the entire village or the entire town. So in Inamgaon and Daimabad, we also found fortifications that were made using stone and mud. And this type of fortifications were generally present in large villages, not in small villages. And Daimabad is actually the largest Jorve culture settlement. That is why it is not a surprise that we have found such kind of fortification in Daimabad. Moreover, in the sites of Malwa culture also, particularly in Iran and Kayatha, we have found fortifications around the village. Moreover, in the excavations that were done in Jorve culture sites in Maharashtra, we have found that the chief and his kinsmen were living in rectangular house. And this rectangular house was located at the center of the village or at the center of the settlement. And the other houses were around this rectangular house. The shape of these other houses was basically round shaped. So at the center of the village or at the center of the settlement, there was a rectangular house. And in this rectangular house, the chief was living along with his kinsmen. And around this rectangular house, there were round huts in which the ordinary people were living. So this is how a settlement in Jorve culture looked like. Now let's talk about the social structure or social hierarchy in Chalcolithic cultures. Please note that the evidence that we have found for social structure and social hierarchy is very small. So we can only make observations using this limited evidences. We have found some evidence of social hierarchy or social structure in many Chalcolithic cultures. Generally, the society was divided into two entities. The first one is rulers and the second one is other than rulers. For example, in the case of Jorve culture, we have noticed that some settlements or some villages were larger than other settlements or other villages. It is entirely possible that these larger villages or larger settlements dominated the smaller villages or smaller settlements. So this is basically a type of social hierarchy where one village dominated the other village. Also within each settlement, we know that the chief and his kinsmen lived in a rectangular house, whereas the others lived around this rectangular house in huts which were generally round in shape, like this. So from this also, we can observe that there was a chief who was very important, and this chief and his family were surrounded by other people who were less important. So this is about the social structure or social hierarchy in Chalcolithic age cultures. Please note that this kind of social hierarchy or social structure differs in different cultures. So only one example of Jorve culture is given here. Now let's talk about the burial practices that were practiced by Chalcolithic culture people. The most important point is that burial practices of Chalcolithic people varied with the area as well as varied with the culture. If we talk about Jorve culture, which is in Maharashtra, here the dead people were buried in urns. We have already learned that urn is nothing but a large pot. In our previous lectures, we already learned that this kind of urn burial was also being practiced by some Harappan cities. However, in Chalcolithic age, what is different is these urns were placed under the floor of the house. So this is a characteristic feature of Maharashtra Chalcolithic age burial practice. In some Harappan cities, people were practicing urn burial, but they were not placing this urn under the floor of the house. They were burying these urns in separate graveyards. But such kind of separate graveyards were not there in Maharashtra Chalcolithic age cultures. Maharashtra Chalcolithic age people were putting their dead people in urns, and these urns were placed under the floor of their house. So they did not use separate cemeteries or separate graveyards for this purpose. Cemetery is nothing but a graveyard. Moreover, the dead body was also placed in north-south position, or I can say north-south alignment, like this. If this is north and this is south, then the dead body was placed in this north-south alignment. In the case of South India, the dead body was placed in east-west direction, like this. So you can see a difference in Maharashtra as well as South India in terms of alignment of the dead body within the grave. Moreover, even in the case of burials, there were differences. For example, in the case of Western India, complete burial was practiced. Complete burial simply means that once a person is dead, that person is buried in the ground. In the case of Eastern India, fractional burial was practiced. We have already learnt about fractional burial. In fractional burial, what happens is the dead body is placed outside, and then birds and animals generally come and eat the dead body. Afterwards, whatever the bones are remaining, those bones are collected and these bones are buried. Such kind of burial practice is called as fractional burial. So in Eastern India, fractional burial was practiced, whereas in Western India, complete burial was practiced. Moreover, these burials often contained pottery as well as copper objects. This was very similar to Harappan culture also. However, we must note that copper objects were not used by all people during Chalcolithic age, because stone was also very much important during Chalcolithic age and copper was probably very expensive. That is why in whichever graves we have found pottery and copper objects, we generally associate that these graves belong to rich people. Whatever the case is, Chalcolithic age people also buried pottery as well as copper objects inside their burials. And one unique case which we observe in Western Maharashtra is that in the Chalcolithic settlements here, we have found evidences of burials of large number of children. What does this indicate? This indicates that there was very high child mortality during this period. Child mortality means death of children. And such kind of high child mortality can be attributed to various kind of factors. For example, low nutrition could be one factor. Because in the western Maharashtra region, there were many droughts during this period. So it could be possible that agriculture has failed. And when agriculture fails, generally children suffer first. So this is one reason. Another reason is that probably there were widespread epidemics. Epidemics means diseases. And whenever epidemics hit, generally it is the children that suffer first. For example, in cases of cholera, it affects children more compared to adults. One another reason is that these people were not consuming milk. And the consumption of milk is very important in children compared to adults. These people were mainly rearing animals for their meat, probably not for milk. So this is also one more reason that children were not getting proper nutrition during Chalcolithic age. So this is basically a case where in western Maharashtra we have found evidences of burials of large number of children. Now let's look at some of the important Chalcolithic sites in India. I want you to focus on this region. This region is called as Malwa region in Madhya Pradesh. So Malwa region is basically the western part of Madhya Pradesh. In Malwa region, we have two Chalcolithic cultures. They are nothing but Kayatha culture and Malwa culture. If we talk about important sites of Kayatha and Malwa Chalcolithic cultures, then we have Iran, Kayatha and Navdatoli. Navdatoli was the largest Malwa culture site. That is why you have to remember Navdatoli. Navdatoli is located near to river Narmada. And Navdatoli is also very close to Maheshwar, which is also called as Mahishmati. We will talk about Maheshwar or Mahishmati when we talk about Mahajanapada period. Okay? But for now, please remember Iran is located here, Kayatha is located here and Navdatoli is located here. We will talk more about Kayatha and Malwa culture in a separate video. Another important culture is Jorve culture, which is mainly located in Maharashtra. Some of the important Chalcolithic sites in Jorve culture are Daimabad, Inamgaon, Nevasa and Jorve. Daimabad was the largest site of Jorve culture. You can see Daimabad over here. Jorve is over here, Nevasa is here and Inamgaon is over here. This area is basically the area of Jorve culture. We also have Chalcolithic cultures in Eastern India. Some of the important Chalcolithic sites in Eastern India are Chirand and Narhan, which are both located in Bihar. And in West Bengal, we have Panduraja Dibi and Mahishdal. So you can see Narhan over here and Chirand is over here. We already talked about Chirand because it is a very important Stone Age site. In case of West Bengal, we have Panduraja Dibi over here and Mahishdal over here. So we have talked about the location of all these Chalcolithic sites in case of India. Here we did not talk about pre-Harappan Chalcolithic sites, okay? Because these were already dealt in pre-Harappan culture lecture. Anyway, we will also be talking about all these cultures in detail in the coming chapters once again. If you like this video, please subscribe. You can download this presentation from our Telegram channel. The name of the channel is IAS Project. You can find the link for this channel in the description section below. Thank you.